The first and most important point is that there is, as I hope you can see, still a tremendous amount of work to do in investigating the rise of Freemasonry in London in the first quarter of the 18th century. But we can still say fairly confidently what happened in 1716, or rather what didn't happen in 1716. The traditional and accepted story of the foundation of the Grand Lodge comes entirely from Anderson. James Anderson is of course best known to us as the author of the first two editions of the Book of Constitutions of the Freemasons, which were not only landmarks in the early institutional development of Freemasonry, but are also important sources for understanding the circumstances of the foundation of the Grand Lodge in London. According to Anderson, it was at the Apple Tree in Charles Street that the first discussion took place in 1716, which led to the inauguration of the Grand Lodge on 24th of June 1717. This year, 2016, thus marks the 300th anniversary of that momentous meeting at the Apple Tree and of the first steps towards the creation of the Grand Lodge in London. Not only is the foundation story of the Apple Tree, the Goose and Gridiron and the rest of it completely absent from the 1723 Book of Constitutions, but there is no hint of this story in any of the various books and newspaper articles on Freemasonry published between 1723 and 1738. Only Anderson tells us about the meeting at the Apple Tree and the feast of the Goose and Gridiron. And the other fragments of information that we have about Masonic activity before 1721 don't actually fit in with the picture that Anderson gives us. Of course, Anderson hadn't been there himself at the Apple Tree and the Goose and Gridiron. And by 1738, there actually weren't many people about who could remember those early years in Grand Lodge. The more we look at Anderson, the more uncertain we feel about where his story is coming from and how much credibility we can place in it. The meeting of the four lodges at the Apple Tree Tavern, described by Gould as the most momentous event in the history of the craft, did not take place. Because there was no Apple Tree Tavern in Charles Street in 1716, and at least one of the lodges said to have met there probably did not exist. If there was no Apple Tree Tavern in Charles Street in 1716, then no Masonic Lodge was meeting there. Let's begin our search for the Apple Tree.